Hi folks, it's me again, and I'm about to share room number 2 in that dream that I had when I went to, or I was shown Heaven's Libraries. Room 1 was relatively small, 12 by 12, with a ceiling 24 feet high and shelves and books everywhere, making corridors. And it was the accumulated knowledge of mankind, everything we got right from Adam and Eve up until probably the point of the rapture. And then all the things that we got wrong were washed away from that room. And everything we got right was preserved. And within that room, there was a door, a double door that led to an even larger room. And this is the room that I'll be talking about now. When I saw that room, it was about the size of a football field and about as high as an airplane hangar. It kind of looked like an airplane hangar, but it was really large, just like I said, like a football field. And there were shelves everywhere, just like in a regular library. Some were almost as high as the ceiling. Some made corridors. Some made nice little rows and columns. But all the shelves were empty. And the walls and the ceiling were actually made out of light, as well as the floor. So the walls and the ceiling and the floor, they looked kind of transparent. You could see that something was there, but you could see that they were mainly constructed of light. And it was that light outside of room number 2. That is room number 3. And I'll be getting into that particular dream and vision a little bit later. Right now, we're going to take a little trip in room number 2, because that dream confirmed a lot of the visions that I've had, or all the visions that I've had, since 1995. I started getting visions about the 1,000 years of peace, and that's basically what room number 2 is. It will be the accumulated knowledge that we will be given and we will learn and discover for ourselves during the 1,000 years of peace. And because this room is much, much larger, we're going to be doing much, much more, and we're going to be discovering a whole lot more than we are now in all the centuries that we've had, in all the 6 millennia we've had since Adam and Eve. And let's see, to start off with, the vision that I had about the 1,000 years of peace, I saw it. I saw everything, just about every era, every aspect, every century since 1995. The first century, second century, third, all the way up to the 10th century, the 1,000 years of peace. And I've even been given visions about the time that comes after that. But for now, the most recent vision I had took place during the final century of Jesus Christ's rule on the earth, the millennium, the 1,000 years of peace. But to start off with, day 1 of the 1,000 years of peace, as you know, I mentioned it in another video from another vision that I had, is that we the believers, a lot of us are going to be sent out to look for the remnant of survivors, the very few people that are left on the earth after the Battle of Armageddon, after the apocalypse, the revelation that Jesus Christ will now rule and reign on the earth. And the first part of the vision of the new earth, I'll just recap this quickly because I've talked about it before. The Bible tells us that during those days, during the 1,000 years of peace, our sun is going to be burning 7 times brighter than it is now. And when that happens, the vision that I saw of that is the sun kind of almost instantly, just expanded to be 7 times brighter. And when that happened, it sent out a shock wave. The whole change of the sun sent out the shock wave that affected the 4 inner planets. That changed their orbits. It was still a nice stable orbit around, but there was a new Goldilocks zone created, a new era or a new area around the sun that made the planets a little more inhabitable. And when that shockwave hit Earth, it shook everything down. It shook absolutely every building that sinful mankind had created. There wasn't a single stone left on top of another. Um, and when it hit the Earth too, it also changed the continents as well. All the continents, they didn't even look like they do now. I'd mentioned in the other video, right now the Earth is 70% water, 30% land, and that's going to be reversed once the shock wave shakes the continents. All the hollow parts of the Earth, as we can tell, they seem to be getting more hollow. Well, with all these sinkholes forming, and there's all the old underground tunnels that used to have water in it, all the underground cisterns from the days of Noah, when all the waters underneath the earth sprang up to the surface of the earth. The earth is fairly hollow, and so when that shock wave hits the earth, it's going to compact it like a snowball. The earth will still weigh the same, but it'll just have a different face to it. All the mountain ranges are going to change. A lot of the areas on the continents are going to be drastically changed. A lot of the ocean floors I saw are going to be lifted up to become new land, to become a new ground, and so the continents will still be arranged the way they are, but they're going to look very, very, very different. The Lord knows where North America would be, and South America, and Asia, Europe, Australia, Africa. The five major continents will still be where they are on the planet, but they will just have a different surface. They will just have a different look. There will only be one ocean, and it'll be much smaller, but there will be a lot of seas and a lot of lakes all over the place. And when that happens, or even about the time shortly after the shock wave hits, that's when the heat wave from the newly expanded sun, that's when the heat wave comes out too. And it's that heat wave that is going to burn everything on the earth as well. Everything is going to be totally decimated. The fire is going to be so intense, it's going to melt a lot of the mountains and the sands and the hills and the grass. Everything will be rearranged and burnt. It'll burn off every single ounce of pollution that we have on the planet now, and it'll completely decimate every single nuclear radioactive particle on the earth too. There won't be anything that sinful man has created that will survive. The heat is just going to devastate everything. And in the vision, as I'd mentioned earlier, a lot of the believers with their regenerated bodies are going to be sent out throughout the entire planet to look for the remnant of survivors. And there will be about 5,000 people that survive the Battle of Armageddon and the change, the great earth shaking and the great earth baking. They'll be in various places around the world, and there's only going to be about 5,000, like I said, about 1,000 from each of the major continents, and those thousands will be divided up. There'll be people from all the tribes and all the tongues and all the nations that we have today. There's going to be a remnant of survivors, and Adam and Eve's bloodline will continue. But as the earth grows, as 1,000 years of peace grows, they're going to be given an earth that is much, much better than it is now. It's going to have an environment that is going to allow them to live up to 500 years old even. The Bible tells us that the person in that time, when they die at 100, will be thought a mere youth. And during the first 10 years, this part of the vision, a lot of the believers throughout the century, since Adam and Eve on, a lot of those believers with regenerated bodies are going to be given a new home on the earth, and they are going to recreate the lifestyles and the villages and all the things that they grew accustomed with in their culture. They're going to be recreating that on the earth as well. And all the believers that are architects, designers, builders of water-based machines, builders of land-based machines, builders of flying machines. All those people that are in heaven and alive right now, all the designers, all the manufacturers, when they get their regenerated body, they're going to be coming back down to earth, and we're going to be rebuilding a brand new global society. Within the first 10 years of the 1,000 years of peace, we will have modern day technology. We will have cars that don't pollute. We will have the beginning of modern cities, and we'll even be flying too. Although we, the regenerated, we won't need flying vehicles, and we won't need ground vehicles to get from here to there, because we'll either be able to fly, since we'll have mastery over the laws of nature, or those of us who are gifted in such a way, we can think ourselves from one place to another. We just have to think about where we want to be, and we're instantly there. We can think ourselves to heaven. We can think ourselves around heaven. We can even think ourselves around the universe. We're able to travel at the speed of thought. And so when all those regenerated believers come back down to the earth, those who will be given not only positions of authority, but will be given a piece of land in which they can build their earthly home that they've always wanted to build. The believers that are gifted as such will have two homes. A home in the city of God, they'll have their mansion, plus they will also have a home on the earth too. Because on the earth, they're going to be helping Adam and Eve's line, their bloodline, those 5,000 people that survive. They will eventually be building up to a population that at the end of the 1,000 years of peace is going to be around 15 billion people. The planet that the Lord has given us will be able to sustain that many people, and we will have that kind of technology, and we will have those kinds of cities that can sustain a population of that much. Okay, now to quickly go ahead to the visions that I've seen at the end of the 1,000 years of peace. How do I get into this? Because, okay, what I saw was, if you wanted to, one of the believers, as the Bible says, you will walk and not grow tired. You will run and not grow weary. You can mount up on wings like eagles. So at any point during the 1,000 years of peace, if you just wanted to simply walk around the planet, take your time, take a year off, and just walk around and visit every continent, what you will see will be like a natural history museum, a living natural history museum. Like I said, all those people from Adam and Eve on, in whatever century they lived in whatever continent they lived on, in whatever nation, tongue, or tribe, they will be recreating their culture. So there will be some places on the earth that look like ancient villages with mud huts and grass huts and wooden huts, forest dwellings and sand dwellings. It'll be like a time machine. And then eventually, when you're going through some of those primitive-looking villages, you will come across a modern-day road. Not the kind of roads that we have now, but these are new roads that will be built, that will lead into highways, that will lead into the modern cities that will be built during the 1,000 years of peace. And to put it bluntly, the largest building that we have now in the 21st century will be the smallest building that we will be building during the 1,000 years of peace. We're going to have cities that are just massive. They will contain a massive amount of people with skyscrapers and apartment buildings that go 1, 2, 3 miles high in the air. And I even saw this one vision. There's one large, huge, ginormous building. It was about 10 miles in the air, believe it or not. And it was kind of like a tripod. One of the legs, and you could live in these legs too. The main structure went up and down, and then it had three legs. One leg went into the ocean, one leg went into the prairie region, and one leg went into the mountains. And I don't want to get into the details of that particular building, but it was one of the most massive buildings that is going to be built. And the top of it, because it's so high up, the top of it will be used to get into space. We will be building spaceships during the 1,000 Years of Peace. We will be building airplanes and all sorts of flying vehicles. We'll be building water vehicles and underwater vehicles, and we'll be building ground vehicles that can explore. And all these machines will be built without any pollution. There's going to be a new type of energy that the Lord is going to show us how to create, a non-polluting energy. There will be 3 or 4 different kinds of energy sources that will be used to allow Adam and Eve's bloodline, the survivors of Armageddon, and their great grandchildren as they grow. It will allow them the kind of lifestyle that we always knew people should have. That science has always envisioned, personal flying vehicles, jetpacks, and longer lifespans. all the designers and planners and the architects that are in heaven, they'll come down, and the Lord will show us how to control nature, and how to manipulate the laws of nature, and to make buildings and things that are just useful for everybody. Even though we, the believers, won't need those sort of things, we won't be building them for us. We'll be building them for Adam and Eve's bloodline, so that they can get to the end of the 1,000 Years of Peace. And I will get into that with the next stream, room number 3. But as a natural history museum, and this is the other thing that I saw too, if I can digress all the way back to day 1 of the 1,000 Years of Peace. No, let me stop it here. It's getting pretty long. So I will do part 2 of room number 2 in the 1,000 Years of Peace. So see you in the next part.